Yeah, so with connaissance, the people receiving information and then being able to like act upon or talk about it, discuss it, and it having like a verifiable thing, where it's like these it's like the Loa that you have a relationship with. They might be telling you certain aspects of things or certain kinds of stuff. It's like because everybody. The thing with Vodou is that like everybody is in Vodou. Everyone, if it exists on Earth, it can be in Vodou. If it doesn't exist, it can't be in Vodou. So it's like it's limitless in that way. But just because as it's limitless as it is, it means that everybody has a role and a position that they can fill within this greater society or community of people.
That's awesome. It almost sounds like Hinduism in a way, because you can do kind of anything in Hinduism. I mean, like everything, like everybody's cosmology can exist in Hinduism, but it's good to hear that it's the same way with Vodou. That like if it's actually there, it's going to be a part of it. So that's also really refreshing to hear.
It's like, I say, like our ancestors were empire builders, like they wanted to build these huge kingdoms. And in order to really do that, you have to include everybody or incorporate everybody. You can't leave some people out and some people, and I know a lot of people feel a lot of certain ways about that, but it's like Vodou is like ultimately also medicine, and a part of also what our ancestors also imparted to us is that we shouldn't gatekeep medicine. We should, if someone needs healing, we should provide the healing. If they're coming to us for a reason, then they're coming to us for a reason. They didn't develop these traditions, sitting in a circle being like, we're going to only make this stuff for us and people that look like us or act like us or think like us. It was for everybody. Where it's like one of the tropes in the American versions of these things is like the enslaved person that heals the slave owner's mom or son or whatever, and now they're given this ability to interact in this different way on certain days of the week. And like that's a trope because it's a thing. It's like they may not have liked those people. They may have had hard feelings about them, but they knew that like it's essential because people are supposed to live and exist. And I think one of the, just to touch on this very briefly, when you hear about the sentiment of like what a enslaved person may have thought about the person that is enslaving them, the thing that they're disliking is their way of interacting with the person, not the person itself. Where like, yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the hardest things with Vodou, right? This is where Vodou has this relationship with revolution and this relationship to freedom and freedom of expression, which is it's one of the only diaspora traditions where you have creative license in a lot of ways, where it's not like when you're like with Ocha, you can't once you receive your stuff, you can't just decorate it any way you want. You gotta you gotta get the right stuff. You gotta follow the instructions. With Vodou, and you're creating your sacred space for the Loa, as long as it's like what your Loa wants or likes and stuff like that, it's fine. If it makes sense, it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, and it does take a while. After a little while, you start to get a sense of like how the spirit and how the energy is responding to something. Because when you first start out, you're gonna have a lot of like false notions, and you're gonna be following every little idea you have and think that, oh, this happened because I screwed up. And then, but once you start, working in a practice, it's almost like that doubt, that paranoia is no longer there. And you just kind of know just through that natural sense of insight that you develop along the path, that natural sense of relationship with the spirits. But it's very much the same with even even graveyards. When you're working with spirits that, I work with mainly Christian spirits because I'm in Texas and like Dallas, so it's going to be mostly Christian. It's a Buddhist grave. I use Buddhist stuff, but I find that all of these spirits, all these energies that they kind of combine in graveyards, but they all respond. They all respond to intention, and they all respond to aid, no matter what form it comes in. It's almost like when people are alive, they have all these boxes they want to put things in. They want to say, okay, this is the way I do things, or this is my religion. This is and everybody else is wrong. But the spirit, when it leaves, the life force that I work with in the graveyard, because there's different parts of when somebody dies, there's different parts. I understand that too. But when I'm working with those spirits, that same egoic conception of the world no longer exists, and it responds based on how I work with it. But is it similar with the Loa, where it's like even if you use the wrong color for a Loa, or use maybe different kinds of words that wasn't part of the tradition, but that you kind of developed over time, but they respond through that to you through that. Is that something that happens quite often?
There are times where it's like this is how I'll say this. There are times when you'll do stuff and you don't know better, and the Loa aren't gonna punish you, right? It's like the Loa aren't here just to chastise you and make your life miserable, right? If you don't know, you don't know, But once you know, then you know. So it's one time I was serving Kuzan a while ago, and I was very new to him, and I thought I had in my mind that one of his colors is yellow, right? And so I got these yellow stuff, and I got all this other stuff, and I was making an offering, and I put it up for him, and something just felt kind of weird, and I was like, it just must be me. But then his offering caught fire, and it's and that's why I talked to my mom, and she's like, oh, yeah, yellow's not one of his colors at all. And so it's they'll show you when something's not right. They'll point it out. And at first it'll be just really gently, right? And then, but once you're told and then you know. That relationship or that way of ethics is called the morality of Guinea, right? Where the Loa don't want to screw you up. They want to elevate you and move you forward, right? So the idea is that they interact with you on the levels. Where you're at is where you're at. So if you don't know, then you don't know. You can't be held accountable. But the minute that you know, now you know. Now you can be held accountable.
Is it almost like they view us as children sometimes? If a baby does something wrong, it's not like you immediately hit that baby or something. You gently. It's almost like the only thing that they might really respond in a big way like that if you're willfully ignorant, where you're I'm purposely trying to insult you or something like that. But I imagine they respond in a much harsher way to that than just somebody who's new, where it's oh, I messed up, but I didn't know. But yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's very much we're these infants and they're these adults, and we're kind of saying crazy ass words that don't sound like anything, but we're asking for something, and they're okay, yeah, it's like this, we're pantomiming to each other, right? But it is very much so if you're trying to piss them off, which I don't know why you want to do that.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to do that, then then they'll know. But if you just don't know what you don't know, then they know that, we all make mistakes, and we all with human relationships and spirit relationships, and there are very, very few Loa that are going to take that personally. It's one of the things that people I have to kind of key people into is with with Freda. Is it Freda? She's a Loa that she doesn't care. She's what most Loa will take whatever offerings you give them from the heart. But she's no, that's not mine. So it's because it's she wants what she wants. She likes what she likes. She interacts how she likes to interact. And that's part of her whole vibe, So it's understanding that about them, and understanding that just getting something for them sometimes isn't enough. Sometimes they want the specific thing, just like we want specific things sometimes, in our exchanges, I charge whatever I charge for a reading. I don't charge an apple and a croissant, for a reading. I don't charge a left shoe and a handful of change. It's
you like vodka and you really don't like whiskey. You're I'm not going to drink that.
Right. And that's the thing is once you know that too, is if you know that I don't eat fish and you invite me over to dinner and you serve me fish, probably not going to come back, but it's once when you know, and you should try to respect that thing. It means that it doesn't mean that because you haven't gotten them something, if they want something specific, that they're not going to interact with you. It just means that when you do get that thing and you do offer that, it's that much more of a thing, because it's you've worked. Think about it this, in Haiti, where things are really screwed up, especially right now. Freda is served with one of her perfumes is Chanel No. 5, right? And so it's a very expensive perfume, and so it's when you see that in Haiti, there's some place that has it where the place doesn't look like it's very, very much of anything. It's corrugated steel, some beams, whatever, but they have these offerings, and people think wow, that's crazy. Why would they spend their money on that? because they know that it's important not only for them but also to their spirits. It's like it's a sacrifice. An actual sacrifice.
And honestly, that's like a whole nother world compared to like other people that aren't on any traditions or anything like that, where it's like there's always that doubt in them, and like that for us, it's not really a question of like is this real? Is this sacrifice a sacrifice? For us, it's like a certainty. But for other people, seeing that or seeing all that expensive stuff on that altar or that shrine, it'd be like, are you sure that worked? Like, what's wrong with you or something like that? But for us, it's kind of like a certainty. So that's it is something that a feeling that you develop over time. So like when you were talking about relationships with the Loa, and we're talking about how they deal with somebody who doesn't know something or something like that. Is there a difference between the Rada and the Petwo as far as like are the Petwo more easy to anger? Are the Rada harder to anger? Like how does that work with those two different?
Like, the thing with the Rada is that like the Rada are very cool spirits, and for the most part, and so when you get them to the point that they're not cool any longer, they're very dangerous, right? Because it's like they're like people see like, oh, this crazy Rada has like fire and a sword and 10 people's hearts on it. It's like that one must be the scary one. That one might be actually the really good one, the really good one that you want to like. They might be more lenient for some things, right? It's the cool ones you got to watch out for, right? So it's like the Rada ones you want to like. Those are the ones you want to like. Not just try it out. You want to do your research first. You want to like make sure, double check stuff, talk to some people, see and figure out before you do. Whereas some of the Petwo ones, like you definitely want to do the same for them because it can get just as dicey on the other hand. But it's like some people look at the Rada and the Petwo as being too like dichotomic, like the one like they're opposites, exact opposites of each other. When really they're kind of, and more or less they're the same. It's just two cultural ideas of a complete cosmology. It's like the Rada can stand on its own, the Petwo can stand on its own, and they both have their ways of interacting with cool energy and with hot energy, and like it's present in both things. Their way of interacting though is differs in this way, where a lot of the Rada, like they haven't been people in a very long time. They were informed by people, by dead priests and this and that. But like some of the Petwo, like they're actually people. Like they were once like the living, breathing person, within our timeline of like recent history, more or less, right? Some of them not so much, but some of them for sure. And then some of them never, right? As a whole thing. But it's like, for example, like Izili Danto, she's like the defender of children, of like single moms, of hard workers, people who like small business owners. She's like, I've made a lot of mistakes with her. She's throughout the years, she's very much like, we'll figure it out at the end, right? We'll make up the difference. But it's like, she's very understanding, whereas like Freda sometimes she's like, no, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work this time. You gotta go get the right thing, and it might not work out with my timing, but it works out with their timing,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's because for instance, like I guess we can go into so Damballa is one of the ones that are easy to approach, right? And dealing with life and life force and healing a lot of the time. Is there another one that's like really good easy to approach, or like really like lenient, or like one that you can just kind of approach with as long as you're sincere, things like that?
Yeah, the one that you really want to focus on too is like Legba. Having a good relationship with Legba, he does everything, because you're gonna deal with him a lot. He's at everybody's footstep. He's at everybody's door at the gateway. And you gotta like, if you have a good relationship with him, you can kind of like make it to the other places you want to go with Vodou.
And originally, when I first started along this path, like a decade ago, or probably a little bit more now, but at first I thought that Legba, he's just in charge of doorways and gateways. Like I didn't really think that was like a big thing, but then I realized that that's between everything. Like not just like actual like places or just like rooms, but like different phases of life, or getting like a new relationship, or even something like finding a little extra money on the street. Like there's all these gateways between like events. And then when I realized, it didn't take me too long, but when I realized that, I was like, oh wow, he's not just the guy that you talk to first just to work with somebody else, he's like foundational. And I will say that, and I'll let you continue on in a minute because like I'm sure there's a lot I want to learn about him. But I found that he's extremely responsive. Like not too long after working with him, and I found that he's very understanding, first of all. But like I found that he's very responsive. But yeah, what else can you tell me about Legba?
Like Legba, he's kind of like Legba is kind of like Gandalf, or sometimes right where he comes is when he means to, and not always when it's expected, right? Because it's like you can sometimes work with Legba. Like I have a lot of people that'll call me because in my book I have a little explanation of how you can interact with Legba as a non-initiate, and like some people will be like, oh, I'm trying this thing out, and I don't think it's connecting, and like just keep trying because it's literally like. He probably is. You just you're maybe expecting something different, like his Legba in that idea of a trickster, like he's not like pulling practical jokes. He's more or less like seeing if you believe it. Like if you ask Legba, like, is the sky blue? He's going to say, no, it's brown. Because like you can look at the sky, you can tell it's blue, But like if you, the trick with Legba too is like, we use the same image. Sometimes we'll use Saint Lazarus, right? And so we see this image of this old dude on crutches, who's sick and stuff like that, right? If you believe that's Legba, then that's the trick, because Legba is not that thing, and at the same time can be that thing. Legba can speak, like the Loa can speak to us through people, like through interactions, and homeless people or people that are in like kind of different kind of various situations like that where they're living on the streets or on the road, is like those are like Legba's people. And so like I sometimes would get, like when I was in New York City all the time, sometimes I would get little messages from people where they're telling me something or they're just saying something out loud that they don't realize that to me what they're saying has tremendous meaning, where like one time I just talked to Legba before I was going to go to this job, and this random dude, he's this old guy with a cane, was just like, when you get there, you're going to want to turn around and leave, but just go in and talk to the people. Just go in there. He wasn't talking to me, just talking out loud. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna follow this advice, and it was very accurate as to what occurred, because like Legba can interact in any way, and when you realize that how important he is, because he's the only Loa that gets paid twice, in the thing where we call him in the beginning and we call him at the end, and sometimes at the various places that he appears along the way, and because it's like we in Vodou we have a Loa called Grand Shimen. And that's the road itself, the road of life. And so when we're walking on the road of life, we're walking with Legba. When the road ends at the crossroads, that's where Kalfu is, at the crossroads, and then there's a Legba waiting for us on the other side, whatever road we pick. And so, Legba, Legba is very understanding. He's he's easy to work with in the beginning because he takes everything, because he's delivering everything, so it's like it's like you don't have to worry too much about offerings, you don't have to worry too much about specifics, like he likes the things that he likes, he likes, like candy and tobacco and like, you can give, I mean, who doesn't like money, but like, so like, but
Tiny,
like, hmm?
tiny pennies.
Yeah, exactly. Pennies, and the thing is too, I remember this one time when I was first starting, I had this altar for Legba, and I would just like keep putting all my lunch money, the leftover stuff, from when I was in school and stuff like that. And I remember one day he told me to take all these coins and all this stuff to get it changed into bills and to put that on his altar. I thought I might have I don't know, maybe $20 or some shit on there, like some little amount. And I had like $200 change on this altar, and I'm like, I know I didn't have $200 of change, and it was like it's like he does little things, he connects you with what you need to be connected with,
For sure.
and he works like it's like when you get him on that level and you get with him like in this real way where you're talking from your heart and you're just talking to him like you would like a parent or like your friend or someone close to you that cares about you, it's just so much different. And because he's a Loa that definitely recognizes and stands on ceremony, but he's not like gonna hold you to like, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do that.
Yeah.
But especially at the beginning, and he's I really value my relationship with Legba, despite all the other relationships I now have with the Loa, because he'll pull through when it seems like really dicey, So
100%, yeah.